Yeah, my name is Bill Oberst Jr., and I'm an actor.
Awesome. Now, Bill, I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody to start off my conversations. What do you think people's first impression of you is?
I hate talking about myself, Leslie. That's why people become actors. Um, I have no idea. I really have spent most of my life not wanting to be seen, and I know that may sound weird for somebody who gets in front of the camera, but I want to be seen in the skin of other people. I vividly remember as a kid because I was different in every way that you could be different, and I remember just wanting desperately, dear God, please don't let people notice that I exist. Because if they noticed I exist, then I knew they'd pick on me. So I guess I've been conditioned really to please other people, to become other people, to serve other people. I have no idea what do you think? What is your first impression?
So, my first impression, having experienced your acting, I was always just curious as to what you were like in real life and what your interactions with others were. But through talking to you on the phone, I just wanted to sit down and have a cup of coffee.
You are so nice. Thank you. I guess that's the best impression anybody can have of another human is I wouldn't mind spending time with them. It wouldn't be horrible.
So, you said something about wanting as a kid, remembering wanting to not have people notice you or feel like you hoped people didn't notice you existed because you felt that they would, did you say tease you?
Oh yes, I knew that if they, I mean, you're a kid, so you're in kids' world. You don't really give a damn what adults think. But I was different in every way that you could be different, and I knew that if they noticed me, they would pick on me. And so I learned to disappear. And then when I couldn't disappear anymore, because kids won't let you disappear, they find you. If you are sensitive and you kind of hide back, they pull you out. And in my day, they shoved you into the locker because we did not have a no tolerance for violence policy. So I learned to entertain them. And there's this very useful equation that I always tell misfit kids. If you entertain people, they will not hit you. And that's been my mantra. My entire career has been a plea to say, please don't hit me.
That breaks my heart. I feel that's not how kids should feel. I feel kids should feel empowered to be themselves and who they are. And so when you say that you were different in every way possible, could you expand on that a little bit? How do you feel that you were different?
Well, I was a fat kid. And back then we did have fat kids. There was the fat kid, and it was unusual. It wasn't as if like today when you can walk into Walmart and there are many, many large people. If you were large, I had like a 36-inch waist in the sixth grade.
Oh,
So
wow.
in our day, in our parlance, we would have said, "You're fat." I had really bad acne. So in my day, that made you ugly. You're a pizza face. I couldn't throw a football. I had zero interest in sports. I was really into books and sci-fi and fantasy and monsters and things like that. So that made me weird and a geek. And I loved school and I loved Sunday school. I was the kid who knew all the answers, like, where did Isaiah go to preach first? I know. So, all the other kids are like, yeah, I'm going to get you when you get out of there. I've always really loved learning new things. So, sensitive and overweight and not conventionally handsome, to put it kindly. I felt like a monster, but it turned out good because, I think there's a story in the Old Testament where Joseph is revealing himself to his brothers and he says, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And I feel that way because this allowed me to empathize with monsters, which has really been my whole career. I love the idea of the wounded monster. I think we are all in some way, but some more than others. The monster that has been made that way because they're wounded. And if you don't see their wounds, you will always think of them as monsters. You see their wounds and you realize that they're like you.
And that speaks so much to the purpose of this show is that if you don't see what's behind a person, you won't understand them.
It's true. And I know this is a cliche thought, but if you are an actor and you're worth your salt, you will quickly learn that there are no others. And so when people talk about other people and those people, you will roll your eyes. And that's why actors seem sometimes in another world. Because when you climb into the skin of people all the time, different types of people, you realize, Leslie, there are no others. There's just us. And what I see in other people is my potential, either realized or unrealized, but it is my potential. There's zero difference between our potential. So when people say, well, people like them, dude, those are people like you.
Yep.
We're not different, but this makes everything that we do online less exciting and less entertaining, because it's much more interesting if we have groups of people in conflict. But I don't believe that's the truth. I think it's a lie.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't feel like there should be that other. I feel like everyone is a little bit the same. And if we can learn each other's stories and watch these episodes and identify just a little bit with every person, we're so much better off as human beings.
Right down the street from my apartment in LA, there's a homeless guy, and he's there a lot. And he always says, hey, do you have time to talk to me? You have time to talk to me? You have time to talk to me? I stopped listening because, I'm always rushing by. Anytime I'm going out of the apartment, I'm on my way to audition. I'm on my way to a shoot. I'm like blasting out of the door. And then one day I really heard him. Do you have time to talk to me? And I said, if you're here when I get back, yes. So I came back from whatever I was doing. And we sat down on a bench and we talked for about an hour. And it turned out his name was George. He had once been a chef in a very large, famous restaurant. He'd lost everything through life circumstances. He had children he hadn't seen in years. And suddenly I could no longer ever again walk past him without saying, George, how you doing today?
And I can't even imagine what that meant to George.
And what it meant to me.
So tell me about that. So tell me what it meant to you.
It's constant reminder, Billy, get out of your own head. Because if you're a creative person, and I don't know if you're this way too, because you are creative, but we live in our own heads, right? And we're always thinking of things and concepts and thoughts and philosophies, and how do I express that? And we forget the world that all of that is based on. Constant reminder to me, constant reminder. When I'm on set, I get in my own world, and I have to remind myself, be kind, be compassionate. Everyone else is in their own head too. You're not so different.
And I don't think it's exclusive to just the creatives, because I'm also very analytical and strategic. And so when I try to find the most efficient way, I may lose track of what someone's saying or a meaning behind something, because I'm so stuck on doing this the fastest, best way I possibly can that I may miss something.
Yes, absolutely. Do you find that when you're working or thinking on a problem like that, that you can look up and an hour's passed and you didn't realize it?
Mm-hmm. You talked also about Sunday school and a little bit about your faith. So can you tell me how that connects you to what you do every day, and how, if there's a motivating factor there, or what you aim to do inside your church? Because I know that's where you were this morning before we met too. So
virtual church.
Yes.
But I didn't put on the tie I put on the tie for you, but not for virtual church. Virtual church, sweatpants. I'm into Jesus, and I'm into Jesus because of the way that he lived and the way he interacted with people, the way that he threw away all the rules and all the conventions of who was clean and who was unclean and who you should touch and who you shouldn't. People said to him, show us God. And he said, okay, I'll wash your feet. And now I was taken to church as a kid, and I was given the holy version of Jesus, the very pious and frankly boring version. And then I actually really got into what he actually said, and I was like, damn, why didn't you tell me this stuff? This is great, because if somebody slaps you on your left cheek, turn your right. That's not a pious sentiment. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that? So everything that he says goes against common sense, but it goes to the heart. That's why I dig it, and that's why I'm into it, because I think there's something at our core that's rotten and selfish. I know there is at mine. and the only way to get through it is love, and to extend that love outwards constantly. And Jesus and his teachings are a reminder to do it. So that's why I connect with it. I mean, I attend church when I can, but it doesn't have to be in a church. In fact, a lot of times being in a church can keep you from doing the actual work of love, by sitting in there and holding your little hymn book instead of being out washing people's feet.
I love that, and I love the passion that you speak about it with, because you can see how it drives you, and what you were saying about being good and being kind to people, and all of that encompasses exactly why I do these interviews too. So it's kind of a give back and a recognition and kind of like a little checkpoint, like you said, to remember to be kind to people and remember to do things versus just
Right.
be there.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And so and that's the point, not your particular faith. Uh, it's what you do. What do you, what is that old expression? I can't hear what you say, but I see what you do.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with these hands? What are you doing with this tongue? Are messages of love and acceptance coming from your tongue? Are tart messages and sharp and cruel messages? That's the real stuff. It really doesn't matter what you profess. It's
Yeah.
what you do.
Yep.
I did some theater performances up in Amish and Mennonite country, and I did some work at a Mennonite church performing. And I heard an expression that I never forgot, and that was, if you asked them, is he a good man? The Mennonite response is, ask my neighbor.
That's
They'll
pretty
tell
good
you.
and
Your neighbor will
powerful.
tell you what you're like.
Right. No, of course, because we perceive and we tell oftentimes only what we want to be perceived like.
Woo! Lord, you're preaching today, Leslie. Especially when you get up on Facebook or on Instagram, what are we showing? The curated version of ourselves. In this business, there's a real tendency to signal your virtues as a part of your brand, and it's really insidious. You have to watch it.
Yep. And so that brings up an interesting question that I kind of was going to ask you is, do you find this struggle between sometimes maybe the way that you feel about things and then a character that you have to play?
Always, because I do horror. And so I'm always engulfed in, if I do my job right, if I don't phone it in, I'm engulfed in fear, darkness. My characters are usually malevolent, wounded. So they swim in this sea of resentment, hurt, bitterness, fear, malevolence. I'm going to hurt you because I've been hurt. Yeah, all the time.
So something you said right there, the I'm going to hurt you because I've been hurt, channeling that energy. Do you ever channel in anything from your youth, the way you felt, the way you discussed at the beginning of this interview? Is any
Every
of that
time.
kind of fuel for your fire?
Every time. And again, I go back to you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. It came out good. Yeah, that's always fuel, because to do this job right, I know people say, oh, it's just a horror movie. But if I'm going to portray evil, I want to do it right so that people's skins crawl and they realize there's evil in the world. And to do that, I have to go to the well of darkness that's within me. And for me, a lot of that well of darkness comes from, God, I didn't ask to be born this way. I didn't ask to be who I am. And that sort of resentment you feel as a kid, which is doubled by other people picking on you, it's deep and it never goes away. When I speak to schools, I tell kids, look, I know humans like to be cruel, but use your cruelness sparingly. Think of it as a really precious commodity and just dribble it out, okay? Because every drop of cruelty you put in the world, it stays there. It's never going away.
So, question about that. Do you think it's necessarily that humans want to be cruel, or do you think that we're just so naturally competitive that in often situations we need to push others down in order to lift ourselves up?
I think we want to be cruel. I think we have a malevolence. I think our apple is rotten at the core, and there's an enjoyment. It's pretty short-lived, because then your conscience kicks in and you think, oh God, what did I do? But we love hurting other people temporarily. If it will give us a leg up, we enjoy it. We enjoy the people who we think deserve to be hurt because they've done something to us or to other people. We enjoy thinking about them being hurt. And then we lie to ourselves and say, oh, I would never think that. That's my personal experience. So of course, that's colored by my own life.
I think that we all need to express more empathy and understanding for others, and I think that that starts at a young age, the need for that. And like you said, to be taught that kindness is key is very essential to creating a better community amongst ourselves as human beings.
And it makes you feel good too when you do it, but it's not the default setting. So it's like I have to go into settings and I have to change my default because kindness is not my default. And it says kindness, not usually selected. So I got to slide it over to the green and go, yeah. And then maybe a little warning comes up and says, are you sure you want to be compassionate? It could harm your self-image. And I go, yes. And I check the okay box. You have to do all of that.
So just to switch gears a little bit, what do you think is something that would surprise people to know about you?
They might be surprised to learn that I go to bed at 9:30 religiously every night, except when I'm working. I'll work till 2 in the morning if I have to. But my preference is 9:30, and I eat exactly the same things every day.
You eat the same thing every day, all 3 meals?
Then I don't have to think about it.
Don't tell that to my fiance. That would be his dream, for me not to ask him what we're having for dinner. Before I ask you the final question that closes out all these conversations, tell us maybe what you are working on right now, anything that you'd like to share with us, anything you think that would be relevant right now.
Well, I have a movie that just came out called The Good Things Devils Do with Kane Hodder and Linnea Quigley. That's a really fun 80s style horror movie set on Halloween evening. And I have a movie coming out called Painkiller, which is a dark thriller about a man whose daughter has died of opioid abuse and nobody's doing anything about it. And he decides he's going to do something about it. It's a revenge picture. Mark Savage directed it. And then I've got a third one that's coming out at the end of the year. I just shot one called Butcher's Bluff in Texas. I'm shooting another one called Brimstone Saint, a Western, next month. My podcast, Gothic Good Night, I'd love people to check that out. Just look for Gothic Good Night on your favorite podcast app. And it's a bedtime podcast, and I read you short bits of fiction to put you to sleep, and I guarantee that it will put you to sleep. And I've opened up a Amazon store and started licensing merchandise, which has been a real education. And I'm going to have some cool things in there soon, like my severed ear, the Bill Oberst Jr. severed ear. We're developing packaging for this now. I want to make it a really cool collectible horror gift. But I sell things. I make movies. I do podcasts. God, I'm such a huckster.
I love it though. And horror is my favorite genre, if I'm being transparent. My favorite. And has been since I was a kid. And I'm also the person who's afraid to be home alone. So
awesome.
Yes, but no, horror is my favorite, absolute favorite. So I'm excited about the things that you just shared. The movie Painkiller, especially. I want to know about that one. But can you do me a favor? This will post to my IGTV after this interview, and then eventually in a couple weeks it'll move to the YouTube channel that I have. If you want to post any links to any of the things that you mentioned in the comments, I'll make sure I share them too.
Okay, Will, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Definitely want to get all of that out. We got to have all of our Bill Oberst Jr. fans getting all their merchandise and checking out. Like I said, I'm really interested in that movie Painkiller. Did you say that's out already?
It's coming out. It's finished and it's coming out. The director is Mark Savage. If you can remember that name, just look up Painkiller, Mark Savage.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful movie.
Awesome. Well, when you have the info for that and you know the date, let me know, and then we can share that on the I Want to Know Your Story platform too.
You were so kind. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. So last but not least, if you had the opportunity, well, obviously post-COVID, walking down the street as people pass you by, and you could hold up a sign or just shout one thing that you would want them to know about you, what would you want them to know?
Well, I'm thinking of that. I will say that one day I want to interview you, because why the heck would you want to do a show called I Want to Know Your Story? I really want to know your story behind that. But the sign that I would hold up is And I probably would use just the letters because it's really cool. I see you. Because that's what we want more than anything else, is for people to say, I see you.
I love it. I love that. I love that. There was an interview that I did a couple weeks ago, and the person's answer was that I'm here. So exactly what you're saying, to be seen.
Like that.
I know.
Yeah,
I literally, it felt like I got
anything
punched
else.
in the gut. But yeah,
That's what we want.
And I'll answer your question that you asked me. And yes, we can talk anytime you'd like to about my motivations. But I really, like you said, you feel internally like you have that anger or that meanness and the cruelty in your core. I recognized in myself that when I would see people or see things, my first thought wasn't always positive, and I didn't think that was fair. And I have been with my fiance for 8.5 years, and everyone to him is nice and wonderful. And so we're this interesting yin and yang, and I took from that I needed to change my perspective. So I started making resolutions, New Year's resolutions. One was to curb the negative thoughts and try to find something positive to think about others. And after a while, it became completely natural. I don't even do that instinctively anymore. And secondarily, I smile at everybody I walk by, whether they smile back or not.
Are you going to write a book about that?
I never thought about it.
It's a very powerful message, what you just said. I'll be spending the rest of the day thinking about it. It's very profound, truly.
Well, thank you. I think you just can't change unless you're conscious of what you need to change, just like you had said earlier.
Preach it.
Well, I can't thank you enough, and please let me know the minute you're back in LA, and please let me know about the movie. I'm going to keep looking it up, but just if you want to send me a text and say, hey, Painkiller's out, I'm all over it.
Awesome. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
You too.
Bye.